Well, I think we probably agree on, a lot of the issues. And, I would say that, the list of cons is pretty significant, too. I think what happens is, and it's so interesting that so many of us have gone through the RFP process, either in issuing the RFP or in responding to the RFP, and yet both sides are just consistently disappointed by the process. And I just wonder whether there are, lessons to be learned. Is there a way to issue a clearer RFP? Could we, from an in-house perspective, be more clear in what it is that we're asking for? So are we issuing out the RFP for exclusive services based on certain subject areas? Are we issuing out the RFP because, we want to know about your diversity stats and, we have an interest in, women-owned, minority-owned firms? I mean, it just needs to be clearer from the get-go. I think then once you get into the whole interviewing process, and hopefully we're timely with that because that's another thing, right? We don't really necessarily hit the deadlines on time. So there are extensions for, when you finally submit the RFP. There are extensions as to, when we're actually going to schedule your interviews. And then, when sometimes, we'll say, I think the disclaimer applies from yesterday, right? That the views expressed are our own and not necessarily those reflecting our companies. But it can be an interesting process where those who are in the interview process from the in-house perspective are not necessarily on the same page as to what the purpose of the RFP is. And I'll add to that, I'm sure there are others on the panel who have some other thoughts. Sorry for being so cynical about this. But what's interesting is, and this may have happened with a company that I work with, it's interesting when there's a change in leadership and the entire RFP process that you've gone through and you have spent months, if not around a year working on, actually doesn't in the end matter because you get a change in leadership, and every new leader wants to make his or her mark, and so what was frustrating from my perspective was recognizing that there was so much work involved with all of the outside firms and outside vendors that we had sent out the RFP to, and all of the work that was done internally to manage that process, only to have the process really not even in place for that long to understand that there could be real value in having gone through that process because of the change in leadership.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective.